Right, y'all. Welcome back to Self Yoga, the Letting Go series. I am Courtney Brain, yoga informed emotional wellness practitioner, and I'll be leading us through the Letting Go series. Last time I just gave you an introduction, and what we did was a lot more breathing, resting, and that was more of a meditation. Today's going to be a practice, so we will do some movement. We're really just going to be doing more holds. So consider this to be more stretching physically while creating stillness in the mind. So before we brought our awareness away from everything around us and we were able to just identify what any inconsistencies between our beliefs and behaviors felt like, and understanding sort of what awareness looks like in practice and bringing that in. So today, I'm not going to go through all of that. I more so just want to kind of get us going right away. So as to maximize our time. That last one was 40 minutes. I want to do my best to keep these around 30 minutes. There's a lot to say and there's much to digest. So I'm going to do my best to be as concise as possible. If you have a mat, if you got your water, I don't know where mine is. Here it is. Have your water nearby just in case you need it. Feel free to take breaks as you need to. You can pause this. I invite you to try and just get through this in its entirety, all the way through one time without having to stop it, pause it, and check your phone or anything like that. But you'll see that I'm wearing the same thing from the introductory video. I still got a little bit of sunlight, which was very unexpected. So I want to try and get this video recorded so that I can have these posted consistently for you as you go through these Letting Go yoga videos in this series. If you haven't already, please sign up for the Get Self newsletter. Well, Self is the company, but Self was taken as a name for the website, but we are getself.org, which is probably how you found this. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that is providing various men's emotional wellness resources. I'm the founder, executive director, podcast host. If you haven't checked out the podcast, please do so. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to be covering the mechanism of letting go. So from wherever you are, I invite you to come down to a as comfortable as you can be, seated position, and bring your feet straight out in front of you and try and bring your anus onto the ground beneath you. You can do so by leaning to one side, maybe place your left hand on the ground beside you, and then with your right hand, sort of peel the flesh upward of your glute, and then roll back over to your side, place your right hand down, do the same thing as you roll over to your right, peel that flesh up with your left hand, and now you should be seated. Tilt your pelvis forward, lift your chest, take a big inhale in, bring your arms up overhead, and then as you exhale, go ahead and just try to, without rounding your back, touch your toes. If you can't touch your toes, go for your ankles, your shins, or your knees, wherever you're most comfortable. You should feel just a gentle hamstring stretch down the back of your legs, all right? And that's all you should feel. If you want a little bit more, I invite you to try and hinge more forward at the hips, but try not to slouch your back and bring your chin to your chest, all right? What I'm gonna do here is set a timer. We're gonna try and hold each posture for about 3 minutes. We'll rest in between, and along the way, I will be just reading here from my notes, all right? If I can find my alarms. Hold on 1 second. Where's that timer at? Man, I got my old phone right here to help me with keeping track of the time. There we go. Okay, I got it. So that's what we'll do. All right, so go ahead and just lean forward and continue to breathe in the way where you're emphasizing your exhale, okay? So breathe out longer than you are breathing in, and yeah, we'll get started. All right, so the mechanism of letting go. Letting go is letting go of sort of an inner pressure. It is a mechanism of the mind that is similar to like dropping a heavy weight. One example is being angry about something, realizing just how funny it is in your feelings about whatever that situation is. And then what happens is that at will, what happens is it'll put you in charge of how you feel. we can always remove this pressure of involuntary reactivity, which is what the basic teaching of the Buddha is. So it's interesting that, I said I want to like use emotions for simplicity, but somehow it still ties into energy and spirituality. Now, mind you, this is from the work of David R. Hawkins. The book is called Letting Go. I invite you to get it, read it, listen to it, however you consume information. I'm just going through the notes that I've taken as I've read it a number of times, right? So one thing that we need to understand is that it isn't thoughts or facts necessarily that cause us any type of pain. It's the accumulation of the feelings, right? And what's so powerful about this is that our understanding of feelings, as they grow, we start to see that feelings are everywhere. We start to recognize the feelings in other people and that maybe they need to let things go. We can be supportive to them if that's what we want to do in letting go of their emotions or seeing them in their emotions. And we can identify when someone's emotions are being projected onto us. But what's really dope is that we can identify our own emotional state and recognize when it's off. So the consistency of my beliefs and my behaviors is sort of like my baseline, right? I'm at peace when my behaviors and my beliefs are aligned. And anytime there's any sort of an inconsistency where I behave outside of that, or I start doubting myself and my thoughts become different, it's because there's some sort of a feeling that's present, right? So one thing to understand too is that we look at thoughts, right? We look at thoughts like, oh my God, my thoughts are running wild. I can't, my mind is running wild. But for every tens of thousands of thoughts, they can be associated with just one feeling about a single event. And should we alleviate that feeling, what happens is that we get rid of those thousands of thoughts and our memories become stored thoughts that are broken up into various emotions. So if you are having tens of thousands of thoughts, what might be going on for you is that there's one feeling that is connecting each and every one of those thoughts. Or triggering those thoughts. I didn't mean connecting. All right, we at the 3-minute mark. Go ahead and slowly walk your hands back up your thighs. Lift your chest, take a big shrug, draw your shoulders back and down. You can rotate your neck side to side. Okay. And next what we'll do is take butterfly pose. For this, all you'll need to do is bring the soles of your feet together as you sit upright. You are more than welcome to also do this lying down. Any of our postures that you don't feel comfortable with sitting upright, you can also do lying down on the floor, all right? I'm gonna start the timer and continue. And I apologize for going so fast through this. It's just that there's 3 pages of notes. We're on a time crunch. And as you can probably tell, the sun's going down behind me as well. And I wanted to make sure to get this uploaded here on time so that I can maintain that consistency for y'all. Because again, consistency, right? My behaviors, beliefs, consistencies, and also kind of have a little bit of a story to share from my own experience that I want to share. Hopefully it doesn't pull us too out of the flow of this today. But I'm starting a timer. Go ahead and bring your soles of your feet together, and you can take your hands over the pinky toes and just keep your chin lifted, chest drawn forward, and try not to round your back if you can. And you'll be able to just bring your elbows into your inner shins and feel that inner groin stretch, okay? All right, I'm gonna start the timer. Okay. So, story time. The other day, Friday, actually, this past Friday, I found myself trying to go to sleep. Like I went to bed, I had big plans for Friday. I was gonna get on the train and take that 2 hours to check out this nonprofit organization, look at a podcast studio, and I went to bed early and I woke up just at 1:30 for no reason. I was just up and I was real agitated. It wasn't hot, I wasn't hungry. It's just that my mind was just not being still. So I put this technique into practice. I was like, okay, like what's on my mind? And I just started writing in my phone. I was just like, all right, here's what I gotta do. I'm doing these things. I had this meeting. I had a bunch of other meetings that I had calls for, and I was gonna just do everything. And long story short, as I'm writing, I'm feeling that pressure release that is described by David R. Hawkins. And as that pressure is releasing, just simply, I'm driving, and as I'm not driving, I'm writing, and as I'm writing, the thoughts that are coming out are giving me sort of the connecting points of what the issue is. And the issue is that I say yes to a lot of things very quickly before identifying and understanding what I'm actually committing to. Did I need to take a 2.5 hour train ride there and back, so 5 hours of my day, to do something that could be done over the phone, a conversation, and then we decide, okay, if we're gonna do something with the podcast space, then I go into the podcast space with a plan. So I ended up just sending an email to the guys like, hey, I hate to do this last minute, the day of, literally, but I'm struggling to go to sleep, and I want to be able to be present for our meeting. And I just let him know all of that. Like, I didn't say like it was a waste of time, but he was like, oh, I didn't know it was a 2.5 hour train ride. So my thoughts were stemming from feelings of, I don't want to say, it's very difficult to identify like a feeling in this, but there was some anxiousness. It was anxiousness, but that itself isn't really a feeling. I think it was more frustration, a little bit of self-anger, because I committed to so many things that require so much time, and I have so many things to do. It just wasn't the best use of my time. So being able to look at that and then write it down and figure it out, I was able to depressurize and see that the core emotion was a little bit of anger and fear. Fear of missing out on the opportunity to connect with this organization and possibly have long-term business partnership. Fear of missing out on a podcast recording space. All of that under the anger and frustration of me committing to something that I probably should have just asked more questions about first. So that's a practical example of what letting go looks like in real time. If that's something that's helpful to you, go ahead and straighten out your legs, place your hands back behind you to your side. You can just sort of wiggle your feet left to right, side to side, bounce your knees, okay? And next what we'll do is take a wide leg forward fold, so you can make a wide V with your toes pointed up to the ceiling, and then take a big inhale, lift the heart, rotate over towards your right side, and then hinge at the hips first. Place your hands at your feet, ankles, shins, or knees, and then you can just begin to rest into the posture, continuing to take those deep breaths, and I'll continue on. Okay, so letting go frees us from inner conflict, using the example that I just gave. Feelings and mental mechanisms that we need to understand are that we can suppress or repress emotions. When we push things down consciously, what happens is that the pressure eventually later feels like some physical tension. It might feel like irritability. It may feel like mood swings. It may be some form of insomnia. And it's also associated with hypertension and more, right? So I couldn't sleep. I'm feeling this, sensation in my shoulders, my chest, right? Like, okay, what are these emotions? And it was anger and frustration with myself that stemmed down from fear of missing out. And so I was able to avoid like consciously pushing it down, because it would have been easy to say, oh, well, I'm gonna just power through the day, missing out on my sleep and going through this event, I'm gonna just power through it. And people pick up on the emotional state of others, and we'll get to that later as well. And I would have hated to have made such a bad first impression simply because I was out of alignment and didn't get any sleep, right? Now, there is often a guilt that kind of leads to suppression that might not even felt. Suppression is just like conscious, like pushing down. Repression is where we push things down unconsciously. So we might form habits to not feel the feeling and keep it from being felt. So this might look like avoidance or escapism. Denial and projection are the best habits of not feeling an emotion, and then we lead it to blaming our surroundings to reinforce this forced belief. And this leads to things on a bigger scale like war, social breakdowns, and projections, right? So in my case, had I just, I'll get some work done while I can't sleep. If I avoided going through the process of writing things down and trying to identify what my feeling was so I could surrender it and move forward, then this could have manifested in such a way that I would have made a bad impression and I would have just been avoiding those feelings, and it could have shown up later in health conditions or type emotions that cause like tension for me. All right. Another way of another mechanism for feelings is expression. So this allows enough inner pressure to be let out for us to continue on without there being really, any consequences of holding on to the emotion. Expression of a feeling lets the rest of the feeling go to then become suppressed. It does not remove the emotion, okay? What we are aiming to do here more than anything is to neutralize the feeling so as not to project it onto anything else. And what we do is we just take responsibility for our feelings. Let me check the time real quick before switching over to the other side. Yep, we're 20 seconds over. I was close. All right, go ahead and walk your hand up your leg, and then you can just do a little gentle twist side to side. Take a big inhale, bring the arms up overhead, rotate the torso to the left, hinge at the hips, and place your hands at the feet, ankles, or shins, and then we'll continue. Okay. So we were at escape. Workaholism, alcoholism, gambling, partying, socializing, these are all things that can avoid ourselves and presence. This is the core of what addiction is, all right? It's escapism. People really dread being alone with themselves, and it's a lot of energy that's required in keeping feelings down, which can be used for creativity and relationships. And a lot of us just don't understand that because we're escaping the feeling. Whereas if we are able to engage the feeling, experience it, neutralize it, and let it go, we free up that energy that's put into doing things to keep it from being felt, that if we just feel it, we would experience so much more lightness and freedom. Letting go allows for us to decompress the more we let go. We have improvements shown in even blood pressure and vision, as well as muscle strength, when we become someone who's capable of letting go. Now, when we look at feelings and stress, like the source of this is internal, it's not external. If we look at our reactions that are triggered by an external circumstance, a fearful emotion in a person will essentially cause the reaction of whatever the event is. And when we let go of fear, that means to focus on letting go of what we are in fact afraid of. Stress is generally caused by our own internal belief systems leading to our behaviors, right? So we can try reducing stress by alleviating the symptoms of the external events, and all that would be like is just taking medications for fever symptoms rather than treating whatever the disease is. We need to remove our attachment to the feeling that's what it looks like to treat whatever it is that we're going through at the core. So attachment, right? We talked about that in the introduction class. What are we attached to? What are our feelings about what we're attached to? How can we free up our psychological, energetic, emotional investment and awareness that is being taken from ourselves and applied to that thing? When we look at life events, right? Like we can repress and suppress emotions, and then what happens is that they become projected and then displaced on what's happening around us rather than what's happening within us. Letting go means that we're immune to people making us angry. We create external events that are reflective of our own internal world and our feelings. Our emotional states have a ripple effect on our that will draw in life events that validate what we're feeling on the inside. And this might be getting more spiritual or woo-woo, so I'll be mindful of that as I go through the notes that I've taken. But it's really important to state that again, because if we're so reactive to other people and their emotional state, why doesn't the same rule apply for us? I remember Dave Chappelle said this, the strongest dream wins the room. So if you are so firm in who you are and your beliefs, your identity, and your emotional state is baseline, you can draw that out of people, and rather than being someone who's reactive to other people's feelings and emotions towards you. Next, I want to talk about the mechanism, but let me check the time. 30 seconds over. All right, go ahead and come up, gently walk your hands up your legs, shake it out. All right. And next, what we'll do is a wide leg forward fold, 2. Okay, so from here, you can keep your legs in that V shape and then bring your chest up, and you can just slowly walk your hands forward. All right. And you should feel this more so in your hips, maybe in your lower back a little bit. If you're feeling too much tightness, walk it back in a little bit, and you can just have a gentle forward fold, all right? Going back to the mechanism itself, okay? The mechanism. So what we want to do is just be aware of the feeling. We let it come up, we be with it, and then we do nothing about it. That's how we let go. We become aware. Awareness is the first step, right? We identify the feeling, we feel it, we just let it run its course. Start by letting yourself just have the feeling as just a feeling. And then you can surrender any of your effort to change it or resist it, as the resistance is just going to keep it going. And that way, what can happen is it can shift to the next feeling and then eventually dissipate. So the way David R. Hawkins talks about emotions is that there's a scale of emotions on the negative level that get lifted and higher energetically, and there's even a number scale that's going to come up as well, of the lowest number is the lowest on the emotional scale. And I think that the split between negative and positive emotions is between anger to courage. So anger is like the highest of the negative emotions, and when we get into courage, that's the lowest of the positive emotions. Okay, so there might even be a little bit of guilt and fear and resistance to having feelings at all, and we even got to let that go. All feelings are just survival programs that the mind believes are necessary, and letting go surrenders what those are. We become free and okay with whatever it is that is happening in itself. And the results of letting go, other people may even notice it before we do, because we don't just like think about it or notice it, we're just doing it. When we're doing it, we're just doing it. Think of it like shoveling, right? When you're digging a hole or something, you don't really know how much progress you made, you're just digging, right? But then when you stop, take a sweat, wipe your forehead, drink some water, and you look back, you're like, oh, there was a lot of digging that's been done. And that may not even happen until someone brings your attention to it. But when you're present to what you're doing, and that's where your awareness is, it often may take for somebody else to check in with you and point out that there has been a change that's taken place. So we have to remind ourselves of sometimes who we were before we decided to go on this journey and start this process of letting go. Now, I'm saying a lot of things, and I know that I mentioned I wanted to be mindful of the time here. So I want for there to be moments of reflection to think about some things that I'm saying. I shared a story which was unexpected. I'm reading from my notes and checking the time. So if it seems like I'm doing too much or I'm rambling, please give me that feedback. I would like that feedback, but it feels more important to me that this be done in a timely fashion, and that it be done consistently, and that it be done in a way that, makes the most sense to me, to be able to get it out there to you all right? So it may not be perfect, but what's important to me is that it is in fact consistent, all right? So as you need to, if I'm talking too much, please feel free to pause this, let yourself process some of it, right? If you need to listen to this again, please do. Go ahead and walk your hands back in towards your body. All right, and place your hands back behind you to prop yourself up, and then just bring your heels into the ground, and we'll windshield wiper the knees left to right, continuing to breathe. And whichever direction your knees go, let your head go in the opposite direction, all right? So our knees go left, head goes right. Knees go right, head goes left, okay? Right. And next, we can just do a gentle twist. I'm not going to lie down, but if you want to, you can just lie on your back, and then you can bring your right knee over toward the left side, keeping your back and shoulders onto the ground, and you can just take your left hand over that right leg as you're lying on your back. If I lie on my back, you won't be able to hear me through my headphones, so I'm seated up doing this. And so if you want to sit upright and do this as well, because maybe you think you'll fall asleep, feel free to take that right foot onto the other side of the left knee. Place the right hand back behind you to prop yourself up like a kickstand. Chest is lifted. Bring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee, and then gently twist, gazing over that right shoulder, all right? We'll do this for 3 minutes on each side. Okay. All right, so we talked about the mechanism of letting go, but it's important to also highlight the resistances to letting go. The ego is going to fight. That's a given. There may be some skepticism. You might even forget to let go. You might escape the letting go process, or you might even be fighting to express yourself. We got to remember that this is about choice. You don't have to let go. You don't have to not let go, right? But you're free. You're free to choose. And that is probably one of the more important parts of this process, is understanding that this is about empowerment of choice, all right? Remember that we just choose to do this, and we practice that option of choice. The more we do a thing, the better we get at it. So if we're choosing to make space to experience our emotions, then we get better at that. And not only that, but we get better at what we make a choice to get better at. So we're getting better at choosing and making choices that do in fact align with us. And another thing too is with upper body, the times are going to be shorter. We generally want to do like 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes of any sort of upper body twists or holds. So we got about 5 more seconds in this posture. And we'll just go ahead and switch over to the other side. So if you had your right foot over, next you'll just switch and bring your left foot over. Right elbow goes on the other side of that left knee, and we'll go. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that anger is like the highest state of the negative emotions. And the thing about anger is that there's a lot of energy to it. We can use that anger to get into the positive scale, right? We can use that energy from being tricked all these years into being attached to things, attached to emotions. And then when the ego knows that this is what's happening, it's gonna fight for its life because this is all that it's known, right? So we use the anger of being sold this American dream or whatever it is that you got here. You're not here because everything's going well and you just want to keep things going well, right? Let's be real. You're probably here because somebody told you weren't emotionally available. You are maybe feeling depressed. Someone may have told you to check this out. Like, nobody's here because things are going well. So the thing that brought you here, find a way to get angry about that and use that anger. Let that anger guide you to break free from your ego and all of the attachments that you identifying as your ego have created for you that caused you to be here in the first place. It might have caused all this pain and suffering. So rather than even thinking about it, feel that anger and just let this process happen. You don't have to talk yourself into it. You don't have to talk yourself out of it either. All right, go ahead and release slowly. And then you can just rest your feet out in front of you and just do a gentle twist to each side. Now I invite you to just lie down on your back. You can just let your hands fall to the wayside. You can rest your eyelids closed or slightly open, whatever works best for you. And just continue to breathe, all right? Just feel your belly rise, your chest lift. And when you hit the peak of an inner breath, just exhale through the mouth, all right? And really focus on that exhale as we wrap up the class here, okay? So what we really want to do is, there's this idea of making ourselves, bringing our awareness into that space between our thoughts. So you have a thought, man, I'm hungry. Man, what should I eat? The last time I ate was, I worked out today, so maybe those pauses in between what I'm saying, try and create more space there by bringing your awareness there. Now, we brought awareness to our surroundings. We brought our awareness to looking at ourselves and then bringing our awareness into ourselves, right? Now, how can we bring that awareness in between the thoughts that we're having, between the words that we're saying, between the words that we're thinking, right? All we really want to do here is we want to think of ourselves as that space between thoughts. And in this space, we're free. We're able to just be and just exist, right? Like there's no meaning, there's no language, there's no right, no wrong, no up, no down, there's no polarity. There's just being, there's just existence in that space. So we want to bring our awareness there as often as we can to just allow for ourselves to get comfortable in not only that silence and that stillness, but that space to just be. How often are we having to use words? How often are we having to do a thing, right? When can we just be? And so the concept of letting go invites us into a practice of just being, whether that be being with an emotion or if it's just being as a person. One more resistance that we may have to letting go is letting go. I mean, it's wild because we only think of letting go when we feel like we need to let a thing go, like if there's a bad thing happening. And the reality is that we really need to be practicing this when things are great. I know a bad thing may have brought you here, but if you find yourself like in another relationship, if you find yourself in a new job and things are going well, try and find things that you can in fact let go of, right? And we really need to let go even more rather than like being stuck, just thinking that there isn't more to let go of, because there's always something. You know, life is going great for me right now. Not to say that I'm thinking, you know, negatively from a meditative perspective or a life perspective in general, but I know that I need to let go of the feelings that I have about my hero complex. I want to save everybody. I want to help everybody. And there's a huge part of my identity that is interconnected with that I recognize. I know that that comes from a place of fear that I'm not going to save someone, that there is someone who's not going to be here because I wasn't there, because I didn't answer my phone, because I didn't make a video, right? And that's something that I have to let go of constantly. And that may seem like a much bigger thing than what some might need to let go of or practice letting go of, but that's my reality. And that's what I choose to accept as, you know, what my work is, what my practice needs to be. My practice needs to be letting go of needing to be the hero. Not to say I'm be the bad guy, but I even have to let go of my ideas about what it means to be a bad guy, right? So there's always something to be let go of. Now, we can also let go of the desire to do things, and this might make us believe that we won't get the thing because we're supposed to work, we're supposed to bust our ass, we're supposed to suffer and struggle to get the thing, and then we associate our value of that thing with the effort that it took to get that thing. And y'all, that is not the case. Life is not supposed to be hard. There is suffering with life, but there's also the conscious choice of what that suffering is, right? What are we going to choose to suffer? What are we going to choose to let go of? We can let go of all things. We can let go of positive things. We can let go of negative things. We can let go of letting go of positive and negative things. And so what this does, this technique, this process, right? Like we're introducing what this means, what this looks like. We did a little bit of a practice to see what it's like to just sit still, what 3 minutes feels like in these postures, to just be. And granted, I'm talking to you, and I'm doing a lot of talking, I'm filling a lot of the space, and I'm depriving you of that, but I'm giving you the practice of and awareness of what that space is like with me, so that there comes a point when we get into some of our practices where it's just, I give you something to reflect on and observe, and then I just allow the space for you to experience that. So yes, there are a lot of words in this particular series because I want to be sure to get the point across. I'm hoping that I'm selling this book for you and that you check it out yourself. Maybe I'm moving too slow for you and you are a different kind of listener, but whatever it is, I really do hope that you put this into practice. I hope that it has some meaning to you, some significance to you, some value to you, and that it's something that you'll not just do when you're here watching these videos, but something that you'll put into practice. I'll invite you to just stay where you are and soak in, you know, what this practice has been. And my question to you is, what is something that you can let go of? You know, we talked last time in the previous video just about the different things that we might be attached to, right? Now, what are some if we were to look at, our feelings about some of those things, what can we do to put this mechanism into practice? How can we just experience and be with whatever the feeling is? You may feel an overwhelming, intense sensation that you might need to cry, you might need to yell, you might laugh. This is all part of the human experience, and we've been deprived of this because we haven't been given the tools, we haven't been given permission, we haven't been given the safety and the intentional spaces for us to be able to just exist in that space between thoughts and words, which is where you are right now. So I invite you to just be there, be in that space.